welcome to today's masterclass. So just general sort of housekeeping. Please be aware of the fact that we are going to be recording this session, and then this session will be made available to you later on. So as a result of that, be grateful if you could be aware of any environmental noise that might be going on and mute your microphones. Please, if you do have any questions, please feel free to add any questions into the chat, and we'll either try and address them as they come up, or at the end of each section where we'll have a opportunity for people to ask any questions. In terms of our masterclass, like I said, it is being recorded and it will be available from our website later on, or from our YouTube channel. So if you can subscribe to that YouTube channel, it's just youtube.com/ then the @symbol NYSCP. Don't forget also to like and subscribe to our videos as well, wanting to sound like a proper YouTuber there. And also you can, following the course, please complete the questionnaire on NYES. If you go back onto the system that you logged, you booked your course for, so that you can then give us feedback in terms of how you found the session, but also so that you can get a certificate of attendance as well. We've had a slight change to some of the program this evening. Fortunately, if you've got your mic on, can you please mute it? Thank you. We've had a change of direction this evening because unfortunately one of our presenters couldn't make it, so I'll be delivering the PANTS presentation, but I'm also going to do something in terms of online safety for early years as well. So part of one of my roles is I'm also CEOP Education Ambassador as well. It sounds much more grander than it is. Anybody with microphones, can you please switch them off, please? Thank you. So access to the internet for early years. Well, I mean, basically nowadays, children are more digitally aware than ever before, and increasingly becoming at a younger age. There are applications that people will use with the children, your parents, etc., which are targeted at younger audiences. So, for example, there is the YouTube Kids app, which is a destination of choice for a lot of children aged 3 to 4 years of age, with about 72% of children, according to Ofcom, in that age group accessing that app alone. Research is also showing that children are consuming less and less television, and are opting for, just like the rest of us, as adults or older children, more video on demand sort of content, and where the things like cartoons or small movies and songs and that sort of thing, they're all shared through platforms like YouTube as one of those things. And even though you would think that online gaming is something that would probably be happening in like the key stage 2, 3 and 4 sort of year groups, there are 3 and 4 year olds, about 23% of them, who play games online. Those might be a lot of different online portals like Roblox or Minecraft, even though some of these things aren't age appropriate to them, but early years children are accessing some of these as well. So the impact on devices on a child's development in terms of early years, the screens can have a number of impacts, those being both beneficial and also can cause challenges that as staff in early years you really should be aware of. So the benefit of screen use obviously incorporates the opportunities to have more creativity in terms and more options for their learning. It can significantly help with things like language development and also improve numeracy and literary skills, because obviously a lot of the stuff on screen requires you to read text and stuff like that. So it's introducing children to the written form. It's a greater understanding of their world, and their world, the world that they're going to be growing up is all of our early years children and older. They live in a completely different world that people like you or I might have, grown up with. And in terms of a lot of what they're going to come up with, they're not going to be able to escape from a lot of the things that we could just go home and shut the door and it would be an escape. And also development of digital skills, which, I mean, as you know, nowadays you can't even, order a passport or order your green bin license without having internet access, and these skills will be needed for, everybody going forward. You can't apply for jobs or anything like that these days without them. So it will be giving them skills that they'll need in the future. The challenges in terms of the use of screens is things like the impact on children's ability to control their emotions. Certainly, I know from my own experience when my son uses a computer, he still gets really wound up, and he's 15, but he used to get much more so when he was younger. Displacements of activities that promote social interactions, vital for development, so because they're not meeting people face to face, seeing their friends, and that they're conversing online, which is a very, very different experience. And of course, the risk of exposure to inappropriate content is always there, although while a lot of that is less prolific as it used to be in terms of Google searches and stuff like that, they're pulling up access to inappropriate material, it can still happen. And also the risks that are associated with people trying to make contact with anybody who's a child as well. In terms of issues such as screen time for children in early years, in the UK there has been a study that's been carried out by the Royal College of Paediatrics and Child Health, and this published guidance for parents and clinicians basically identified that there are no safe amounts of time for accessing the screens. And what they've recommended is that the right amount of screen time that you use will vary very differently between families, and the approach sort of emphasizes the need to access screen time limits based on the needs of the child, while ensuring that sleep and associated activities are not negatively impacted. So if someone's got the microphone on, can you please switch it off? Most recognise that the quality of what the child will consume will have an impact in terms of their development more than the actual amount of time that they have online. And obviously, if they're taking away from any of the childhood experiences that they would have for natural development as well. In terms of advice for early years practitioners, there are a number of things that you can do to regarding to support the use of technology in your settings. Obviously, one of the things is outlining how you support the children's use of technology. It can be helpful to really combine that with safeguarding policies, and for any early years attached to schools and things like that, there's the Keeping Children Safe in Education, which has requirements in there which would link in with that. Using devices safety settings to ensure that apps and age appropriate content are accessed, and also things as well like ensuring that credit cards are not used, and they would require further permissions and that sort of thing, because obviously that would could cause expense to you as childcare providers and establishments and that sort of thing. And monitoring and supporting children while they use devices. It is a very modern thing that digital devices are virtual parents, but they shouldn't be. Thinking about what you post online and how this may impact in your role. This could be ensuring that you don't share details about the children, parents, or other practitioners, and adhering to the social media policies which cover staff personal use of social media. Obviously, for putting any pictures online of children or anything for your business, you would need to be having consent from the parents and that sort of thing. There will be issues such as fostered children will not, the parents will not want their identity of the children online for good reasons. So you need to be aware of all of those and have those sort of arrangements in place as well, because getting parental consent before creating or sharing images and storing them safely, is like a really key thing. And if a parent says no, obviously you can't use that those pictures for those purposes. Internet safety awareness for early years. So you should really be looking to teach children about internet safety, and there are a number of ways that you can do this. One of those is by making them aware of what safe use of technology looks like. So that does mean your standard health and safety stuff about having appropriate limits and the use of the equipment, etc. But also choose educational apps and platforms that are going to help them to develop some of those skills as well. So websites like the BBC have a lot of the years and young key stage 1 sort of developmental bits on their websites, and there are various other places that you can download such things, and in the app stores and all of that. Having conversations and sharing advice with parents to encourage safety and online use in the home as well. That is really vital. One of the things that we feel as a partnership is that more needs to be done with parents, and something that we will be looking to do moving forward in terms of online safety, because it is becoming more prevalent. It is something that we're going to be looking at, and we do have information on our website that is specifically designed for parents and to help parents or businesses to set up appropriate security controls. So if you look at our website on safeguardingchildren.co.uk and then you have a look in either the parents section or look for the online safety aspects on the website, you'll be able to pick up that, which will divert things. So if you allow children to access things like Roblox from your system, it'll tell you how to set that up so that it's appropriate. Stay informed about issues that young children face online through online safety training as well, and keep up to date with news and research on internet safety. One of the things we're doing as a partnership over Safeguarding Week, which is next month, is we'll be talking about things like the dark web and online safety through one of our sort of like Safeguarding Week masterclasses. And you can those are about to be advertised. You'll book that through Eventbrite, but you can access that training through there, and that will be free of charge. To find out more information in terms of anything for online safety, there's obviously the Safeguarding Children Protecting Professionals in Early Years Settings online safety guidance for practitioners. That's from the UK Council for Internet Safety, which you can use. There is then also the Internet Safety Checklist for preschool children. That's from Internet Matters. You can also go to CEOP, which is a Child Exploitation Online Protection Agency, which is formerly known as Think You Know, their website. They have a selection of resources for professionals, for parents and for children at different age groups, from the age of 4 years and upwards. So as I know, it's at the higher end of the early years, but nevertheless. And then obviously I've mentioned before our partnership website. If you go onto there, you can find lots of information about keeping children, young people safe online. And one of the things that we're planning on doing in the coming months is to start developing the brand of Be Aware, which I'm sure you will be aware that that is currently focusing on child exploitation, but the Be Aware element is going to be a wider brand, which is going to look at be aware of your digital life and things like that as well. So we'll have more knowledge hubs relating to that sort of thing in the future as well, and we'll keep you up to date about that in future meetings as well. So that's it in terms of online safety. Does anybody have any questions in relation to that? I can't see the chat, Helen. Can you tell me if there is any? No. Okay.
No, there's no questions in the chat bar, Hayden.
Okay.
Can I just point out, I've just noticed, I think there's a couple of sort of head teachers. Whilst you're very, very, very welcome to stay, this evening was aimed, is aimed at early years providers in the PVI sector. So obviously you're more than welcome to stay, but obviously, like I say, the content is aimed at the PVI providers. Okay, thank you, Hayden.
So unfortunately, we don't have our representative from the NSPCC who's going to talk about the PANTS campaign, but I'll give you a rundown about what this is. So this, obviously, a campaign is run by the NSPCC, and Talk PANTS campaign basically is designed to give parents, carers and professionals simple conversations that they can have with children to keep them basically safe from sexual abuse, and ensure that they know what they should do in terms of the body is their own, and that it's inappropriate for people to be asking to touch the body unless it's very, very specific reasons without their consent. So Talk Pants basically helps children understand that their body belongs to them, and then they should tell someone that they trust if anything happens that makes them feel upset or worried. So the PANTS campaign basically is as is here now. So it's basically private. So your underwear covers up your private parts, and no one should ask to see them. And sometimes a doctor or a nurse or a family member may have to, but they should always explain why they need to see that, see your privates, and ask if that's okay with you. Always remember that your body belongs to you. So in this is where the conversation goes around that your body belongs to you. No one should ever make you do things that make you feel embarrassed or uncomfortable. And if anyone asks to see or tries to touch you, then underneath your clothes or underwear, you can say no, and you should tell somebody that you trust and speak to them immediately. No means no. So obviously, in terms of here, children have the right to say no, and it's really emphasizing that to children as well. They're in control of their body, and what's most important is about how they feel, and if they want to say no, it's their choice to say that. Talk about secrets. Obviously, this is promoting the fact that yes, there are good secrets, like what are you getting for Christmas? Your friend's going to have a surprise birthday party, all of that sort of thing. But there are also bad secrets as well, and that if they make you feel worried, sad, or frightened, that they should tell an adult about any bad secrets. So say for example, somebody has said don't tell anybody, but let's do this, and they know it's relating to the PANTS campaign, and the message that's coming from that. That's what they should be they should be aware of. And then speak up if someone can help. So here it's about really encouraging and building that resilience in children to be able to discuss things that make them worried. And if they feel sad, anxious, frightened, that they should talk to an adult that they trust. That doesn't have to be a family member either. It might be someone in your businesses, but it also could be a teacher, a friend's parent, or even Childline. Not that you would get very many early years children, I think, phoning Childline, but there's lots of options that children could find somebody that they trust. So there are lots of times, it's about looking for creative opportunities about when's the right time to talk about the PANTS campaign to children, and parents should be encouraged to be doing this as well as, you know, your staff and, you know, in your day-to-day interactions. Times that you might do this might be, for example, on a car journey, you know, if you're taking a child to or from somewhere, if you take children swimming, and, you know, and say what's covered, you know, by your swimwear, that's your private parts, and people shouldn't be asking to see or touch them without a good reason, and it's only people like doctors or your parents for cleaning you, that sort of thing. During, you know, related TV shows, you know, maybe features a sensitive storyline, if a child picks that up. Obviously that's probably more for the older children rather than for younger. You can also sing along to the NSPC's Pants song with Pantosaurus, and I'll put that on at the end of this. And you can also talk about it through like reading exercises. You know, there is actually an NSPCC's Pant storybook, which I think features Pantosaurus as well. And then there's also the parents and carers. They should be, you know, having that sort of conversation and explaining these sort of things when dressing and undressing, bath time, putting cream on the children, all of those sort of things, are saying this is okay for me to do this, but somebody else shouldn't be doing it. So that, you know, you must tell someone if, you know, if somebody does do that sort of thing, you know, to encourage and, you know, make children feel like they will be heard if, you know, if they're worried about these sort of things. So in terms of the Pants music, this is the video. Hopefully you'll be able to hear this.
This is Pantosaurus. He's going to help us with our song about pants.
Pants, pants, Pantosaurus, pants, pants, Pantosaurus, pants, pants, Pantosaurus, pants, pants.
What's in your pants belongs only to you. Your pants cover up your private parts.
Your private parts belong only to you. If someone asks to see, just tell them no. Pants, pants, Pantosaurus, pants, pants, Pantosaurus.
Pantosaurus likes to wear his pants. He wears them all day long. They cover up his private parts, and that's what makes him strong. If someone asks to see or tries to touch him underneath them, he tells them no, then tells someone he trusts and likes to speak to.
What's in your pants belongs only to you. Your pants cover up your private parts. Your private parts belong only to you. If someone asks to see, just tell them no.
If someone asks to see or tries to touch under your pants and says to keep it secret, then you must tell them no. Then go and find someone you trust and tell them straight away. They'll say, well done for speaking out and make everything okay.
What's in your pants belongs only to you. Your pants cover up your private parts. Your private parts belong only to you. If someone asks to see, just tell them no.
Sing along, everybody, it's your turn.
What's in your pants belongs only to you. Your pants cover up your private parts. Your private parts belong only to you. If someone asks to see, just tell them no. If someone asks to see, just tell them no.
So that's the video that's available for you to access on YouTube. And there's lots of other resources on the NSPCC website, including obviously, as I said, the storybook that you can access, and there's lots of other information about pants, as well as things that you can put on your social media and other resources like that.
And please don't shout at us tomorrow if that's going round in your heads at 3 o'clock this morning when you can't sleep, because I know it will be for me. So yeah, so thank you, Hayden, for doing that, because I know Sarah was so upset that she couldn't be here tonight, but she's hoping if we get permission to do an autumn safeguarding masterclass, she's hoping that she'll be able to come to that one, and I think there's plans on possibly having new materials as well for the autumn term. So thank you, Hayden, ever so much for stepping in when Sarah wasn't able to.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you. So we're going to hand over to Catherine now, who is one of our public health managers. I'm sure you may have come across Catherine in the past during COVID and sort of things like that. So Catherine, I'll hand over to you. Thank you very much.
All right. Okay. Can you see that now? The slideshow?
Yep, that's fine, Catherine. Yeah.
Right, thank you. Apologies about that. I had some other things open at the same time. Okay, so I've come today to talk about reducing injuries in young children, and unfortunately my colleague from the Healthy Child Programme team, Nikki, can't be here this evening, so she had a few slides to contribute as well. So what we just wanted to make sure that, you know, if there is anything you want to ask the Healthy Child Programme team after the presentation or during the presentation, please do put it in the chat box, and then we can make sure we pass that on to them and get some responses. So you will see the slides that they produced in this deck, but I won't actually cover them. Okay. So why? Well, unintentional injuries are a leading cause of preventable death for children under 5 years old, and they're a major cause of ill health and serious disability, and they can have a serious impact on long-term outcomes of young children and that suffer them. As practitioners and providers, you know, there is the duty of care that's stipulated in the statutory framework, that providers must take all necessary steps to keep children safe and well. And I know, Helen, before the presentation, you were keen for me just to mention also around the accessibility of first aid boxes, because we'd had a recent inspection at a provider where they'd received inadequate judgment because their first aid box wasn't accessible with appropriate content for use with children. And one of the other stipulations there is that the providers must keep a written record of accidents or injuries and first aid treatment, and that if a parent attends the setting or childminder with an existing injury, then you must get parents and carers to sign. So I think Helen was just keen to say that because that had happened recently to a provider where those few things weren't in place. Just to also say, I'm going to be showing a YouTube clip later which has got sensitive information in it and a couple of articles from newspaper, and I'm aware that people on the call may have personal experience either as a parent yourself or through your professional, you know, your caring duties as part of your profession. So it's just really a bit of a trigger warning about that. So these are just a few headlines to show you some examples. So the top one there on the left, there was a young child, a 5-year-old in the northeast who had climbed into a dinosaur-shaped balloon that was the size of him and suffocated. The nursery on the bottom left there, they were actually suspended immediately after they were visited by inspectors who found cleaning products being stored within easy reach of children, unhygienic toilet facilities, broken toys, deflated balloons and pieces of hosepipe lying around the play area presenting a risk. And then this image on the right was a young child whose eyes were glued shut. A nursery worker was applying fake nails within the nursery setting whilst looking after this child, and the glue tragically got into his eyes. So these are just a few examples, and the reason really why I'm sharing those is that these are examples of preventable injury. You know, accidents do happen and children take risks, but we're talking here about injuries that are preventable. So just to share some information about what the picture looks like in North Yorkshire. So this table here shows the rates of hospital admissions caused by unintentional and deliberate injuries in children. And you can see, so North Yorkshire is the top line in blue and the line underneath is the England average. So you can see that North Yorkshire is significantly higher than the England rates and has been for several years now. And those statistics are remaining pretty static. So it is something that we want to work on together in North Yorkshire. Some further recent data analysis actually looked at, it was just a snapshot of a year, And it does exclude the Craven area due to the sort of hospital trust locations. But a colleague did some recent data analysis, and this showed that in the 0 to 4 age group, that within the North Yorkshire area, excluding Craven, head injuries were the most common reason for admission to hospital, followed by poisoning and foreign bodies. We also know nationally that the 5 most common causes for hospital admissions in this age group are choking, suffocation and strangulation. And I think Helen's going to be covering some choking within her presentation later on. Falls, poisoning, so in particular poisoning from medicines and household products, burns and scalds, and that includes internal burns from things like button batteries and magnets, and drowning. The other thing about this data is that hospital admissions are only one part of the story, so it doesn't include A&E attendances and other injuries, etc. So this year we're hoping to do a bit of a deep dive into the data to understand a bit more about hospital attendance data to help inform future work across North Yorkshire. I just wanted to also share some work that's currently happening in partnership with a number of agencies. So the Healthy Child programme, they currently use a home environment assessment tool. They use this universally with all families by 6 to 8 weeks after birth, or if there's been any significant change to family circumstances. And key things that the home environment assessment tool looks at, so it includes a walk around with the family home and is done in partnership with the parent. But the 6 areas that I looked at are observations of the interior and exterior of the home, health and safety issues, sleeping arrangements, care for babies and young children, the child's appearance, demeanour and health, and parental behaviour. So it's very much prevention focused, as well as being able to be used as a safeguarding tool. The second example there of some recent work is our Day or Night Sleep Right campaign, which I'm hoping many of you will be aware of this campaign, because I believe Karen, who led the development of it, I think she presented at one of your earlier safeguarding masterclasses. So certainly if you haven't attended that masterclass, I do know that that one was recorded, so please do take a look. That's about raising awareness and importance of safe sleep environments for infants, with the aim of reducing the risk of sudden unexpected deaths in infancy. So for settings where obviously you've got young babies sleeping, etc., and children, that will be particularly interesting for you to watch. A couple of other areas. So again, this is our health visitors, the icon, health visitor midwives. This is a campaign around preventing abusive head trauma. Its focus is on normal patterns of babies crying and educating parents about that, so that through the antenatal and postnatal journey, and really reinforcing the messages that if an infant is safe, it's okay to walk away and calm down and have a break before going to tend to the baby. And that's based on a lot of research around parents that may have shaken their babies in moments of, when they're wanting to calm their babies. So that's the whole aim is to assist parents to understand more about normal crying patterns, and that it is normal for babies to cry, etc. The Take Action Today campaign, that's another campaign that the health visitors are currently running. So this is around understanding the dangers of poisoning and the importance of maintaining reducing those risks within the home environment. And they undertake this assessment with families at their 2-year-old development check. So they talk to them about those risks during that development check. We also have an unintentional injuries 1-minute guide, which is available on the Safeguarding Partnership website. It is a few years out of date now and definitely needs an update, but the existing version is still there, and we are looking to update that within the next 6 months. And then our Healthy Child programme, they also have opt-in text messaging services. So provided parents have given consent after baby's born, they will receive automatic text messages over a number of key stages during the baby's development between 0 to 2. So really relevant to that particular hazards that may be about to arise. So for example, when babies reach the stage of perhaps crawling, the messages around making sure that nappy sacks, etc., are out of reach. And so it's really tailored with a view that parents are more receptive to receiving information if it's particularly pertinent to the age and stage of their child at that time. The other thing that we're looking to do, and we'll be sharing with yourselves, is we'd like to do a seasonal comms calendar around reducing unintentional injuries. So this could be something that you'd be able to then use on your own social media platforms or in your newsletter to parents. So we'll focus on sort of key hazards and risks across the year, and provide resources, examples of things that you can use on social media accounts, etc., if you wish to do so. Right, the next few slides, I just wanted to talk particularly around button batteries and magnets. And I do have a clip that I'm hopefully going to be able to share with you through the YouTube channel. This poster here on the left is from the Child Accident Prevention Trust, and this is something that's downloadable and can be shared with parents. It's also available in quite a number of community languages, so that's great. So there's a huge risk around button batteries. They can really badly hurt or kill a small child even if they swallow one. And they're available, well, they're present in lots and lots of things. So they're available in products like gaming headsets, car key fobs, remote controls, as well as obviously in some toys, gadgets and novelty items. And where there has been instances before, that might be where children have had access to broken toys, so the battery compartments are not safe and secure, or where perhaps batteries have been taken out of products to be switched over, or where flat batteries are removed and then they're left on the side, worktop sides, etc., and children can easily have access to them. But within just 2 hours of swallowing them, the battery fluid can erode vital tissue. So if, in any of these circumstances, the immediate thing to do is take a child straight to A&E, and not to let a child eat or drink, or don't make them sick. It isn't always obvious, obviously, when a child has swallowed a button battery, but if you suspect that at all, contact A&E immediately. One thing just to add around, one thing that is specific to button battery ingestion is vomiting fresh bright red blood. So if the child does this, then do seek immediate medical help. I'm going to try and now show this YouTube clip, and I'm hoping this is going to work, so please shout if it doesn't.
Ready? Yeah. Steady, go.
All it took was a tiny watch battery to devastate this little girl's health. After she swallowed the button battery, it burned through Valeria's food and windpipes. This is the latest of many operations at London's Great Ormond Street Hospital to try to repair the damage. For the past year, the 3-year-old has been fed through a tube into her stomach and has a bag to collect her saliva. Her mother, Jelena, who's Russian, says it has turned their lives upside down. She hopes Valeria will eventually recover.
Essentially, this battery starts working in the esophagus.
Surgeons at Great Ormond Street Hospital are seeing one child a month with caustic soda burns caused by button batteries.
The most important thing is to be aware that these are extremely dangerous and should be treated essentially like a poison and be kept out of the reach of children.
Let's mimic what can happen when a button battery gets lodged in a child's throat. The ham represents the delicate lining of the esophagus, and water, saliva. I'll cover this side, but put another battery here so we can see the chemical reaction that happens. We've left this for just 2 hours, and already a huge amount of damage has been done. If I lift the button battery, you can see all this black marked area. Eventually, this would have burnt its way right through the ham. Same thing with the child's throat.
Look, when I turn the clock.
When Amari from Newcastle swallowed a button battery last year, doctors warned her mum there could be life-changing injuries.
They said that her vocal cords could be damaged then and there, and she would never actually in fact develop a voice. And again, they'd said that if she did pull through, she may never eat again because the esophagus may have been too badly damaged. Just truly terrifying.
Getting ready for her party today.
Fortunately, the 2-year-old has made a complete recovery, but it's a warning to parents to keep toddlers away from button batteries. Fergus Walsh, BBC News.
So quite emotive seeing that, isn't it? And it's very frightening, really, about how quickly that can happen. Those are the 2 clips. We don't have time to show them now, but they're just another couple of clips that are equally as powerful. And I just included them because I thought it might be something, if you're doing staff training within your, within your setting, you may wish to share them with some of your staff. So do take a look at those. The other thing is around super strong magnets, which can be up to 10 times stronger than ordinary magnets. And these can be particularly dangerous as well if swallowed. Again, these are found in a whole range of toys and like things like magnetic beads, magnetic balls from building kits. And this quote that on the right-hand side there is from a mum of a 3-year-old boy who'd been playing with magnetic ball toys, which were actually bought for an older sibling. They weren't his toy, but they were he had access to them. And they looked like sweets. He put them in his mouth and swallowed them. And when he became ill, he was taken to hospital where he had 29 magnetic balls removed, and part of his intestine needed to be removed, and he had 14 holes patched up, and that was in quite a short space of time. So the boy has really been lucky not to be left with permanent damage to his insides. So yeah, magnets are something else to be really cautious about. And in particular, I think around magnets and button batteries as well. Thinking about online marketplaces, they pose a particular risk really, because sometimes they don't follow UK safety standards on safe levels of magnetic strength, for example. So it's always best to try and buy gifts or toys from your reputable retailers or a brand name that you know, so that you can make sure that they meet UK safety standards. They're just some images there from the Office of Product Safety Standards in terms of some images that they have on their website. And again, lots of these resources are available from the Child Accident Prevention Trust website. So if it's something you want to share with parents, they're easily downloadable and accessible. The other thing that the Child Accident Prevention Trust has done is they've created this advice hub, Be a Savvy Shopper, Shop Smart, Stay Safe, which is really useful and covers some of the hazards about particular toy safety, but also what I mentioned about online selling and rogue online selling. Last year, 91 types of toy were recalled because they were dangerous. And a report from the British Toy and Hobby Association found that of 101 dangerous items that were withdrawn from sale on the online marketplace, 65 seemingly identical toys were still on sale a year later. So it's extremely difficult to keep up with recalling things that are unsafe. But despite this, research suggests that 70% of parents never check to see if a product has been recalled, and 93% don't know how to check. So this page here gives the opportunity, the Advice Hub, for parents to be able to check those things out and check that products are buying are safe. We do know that obviously with increasing financial pressures that more people are searching online for better prices in the shops, but not many people actually check who the seller is, the origin of the seller, where they're based, and inadvertently this can be increasing risks around purchasing dangerous products for children. The other thing to say is that we do have trading standards in North Yorkshire. Well, every local authority does. So if you do come across, if you do happen to purchase something, or you see something being advertised that you believe is an unsafe product, you can report that to trading standards in North Yorkshire, and it would be investigated. And I think the other thing just to point out is that top image around the safety, the self-feeding pillows. That was fairly recently. I think it was just before Christmas as there was alert to stop selling these online safety feeding pillows, a product recall. But they'd still made it to being sold to many families, and these presented a choking hazard. So it's really difficult for parents, isn't it, to navigate when things are advertised and promoted as making life easy, they look nice. These are things that can influence parents to purchase things that are maybe not safe. So it's just to be aware of those kind of things. And please do promote this to your families and your staff teams as well, who might be buying, purchasing for yourselves. Now I'm just going to flick through these slides because this is the bit that Nikki was going to cover in terms of the Healthy Child programme and their support in terms of what they offer to families at the moment. So yeah, I just want to finish here just by sharing some resources. So I've talked about the Child Accident Prevention Trust a lot, and I'm sure many of you already use them as a resource, but I just think the website is brilliant. It's really user-friendly, really easy to read, lots of resources on there, downloadable things that if you wanted to do a display or you wanted to share information through your newsletters, there's lots of information that you can use. ROSPA, they too have a website. It's probably slightly, I would say, less accessible in terms of navigating. It doesn't, whereas the Child Accident Prevention Trust is really easy to navigate as a website. And the other thing I just wanted to point you in the direction of is this injury prevention briefing. So this is quite a few years old now, but it was designed really to be used as a toolkit for services that were supporting families. So maybe if they were delivering group work to families, etc. But I put it on there because there's some really good activities in there, and it might be something again that providers want to do as staff teams to raise awareness around injury prevention and what are the key risks to children in certain age groups. So that's why I've included that on there. You know, there's activities around reducing the risk of hot drinks and various other things. And then the final two websites there are from our NHS ICB websites, West Yorkshire Healthier Together and Humber and North Yorkshire Healthier Together, and they have a section on keeping your child safe, which again has lots of useful information about unintentional injuries. So that is it from me this evening. I have included my contact details, and I'm really happy to take any questions or thoughts or reflections. And as I said, if you do have any specific questions for our colleagues in Healthy Child programme, we can take them back to our colleagues as well. Thanks.
That's lovely, Catherine. Thank you ever so much. I can't see sort of any questions in the chat bar, but yes, lots and lots of food for thought there, isn't there, literally. And like Catherine said, unfortunately, Nikki couldn't be with us tonight either. But what the Healthy Child team have said is any questions at all, there are the contact numbers that, you've got the email contact details. But obviously, if you've got any specific questions, either please email me or pop it in the chat bar and we'll pick it up with our colleagues in the Healthy Child team. So thank you, Catherine, ever so much. And moving swiftly on to Helen, who is our public health manager. And Helen, you're going to talk about healthy weight and healthy eating in the early years.
I am. Thanks, Helen. Oh, you've got my slides. I wasn't sure whether I'm presenting mine, so that's great. So hi, everyone. Sorry, Hayden.
You want to present yours? I'm quite happy for you.
No, it's fine as long as you're happy moving them on. That's fine. Thank you. So hi, everyone. I'm Helen Ingle. I'm one of the other public health managers. I work closely with Catherine in the public health team, in the children and young people's team at North Yorkshire Council. So my role really is around children's healthy weight. also do work around healthy schools, healthy early years as well. So if we go to the next slide, please. So I'm going to talk a little bit about healthy weight, healthy eating. I've got some stats on childhood obesity just to sort of show you where things are at in North Yorkshire. I'll talk a bit about some of the things that we're doing and hopefully some of the things to help you in your settings to promote healthy weight, healthy eating, healthy living, and give you some ideas of things that you can do and things that are coming up in the future around training and programs that we're working on. And then I've got some key links and resources to share as well. So next slide, please. Oh yeah, sorry, there's a bit of build on here, Hayden, so you have to just get them all out. It's fine. Sorry. So just a reminder, really. You know, in terms of trying to prevent healthy weight, and you know, things have changed a lot in terms of terminology when we're talking about obesity, childhood obesity. We you know, try not to talk about, you know, children being obese and so on. We try and talk about, you know, maybe excess weight or being very overweight. But it's, you know, the focus in terms of you know, our professional work is more about supporting families to live healthy lives, to eat well, to be active, and to cope within the environments and the challenges that they have in their lives as well. So this is, I guess, just a reminder of, you know, trying to prevent. We're trying to help families to get into good habits and to be healthy, to be a healthy weight that is good for children, young children, so that as they grow up and go through primary and secondary school, and as adults, that they have better overall health. So in terms of childhood obesity, it can affect physical and mental health and well-being. It can impact on sleep, self-esteem, higher levels of bullying sometimes. It can lead to an increased absence from school and poorer educational outcomes. We know that the obesity rates in the most deprived areas, they tend to be about double the rates in the least deprived areas. That goes the same for North Yorkshire and nationally as well. And if we look at levels of severe obesity, the very high levels of obesity, they're much worse, more than double in the more deprived areas. We know that once established obesity or overweight is very, very hard to treat, and it's estimated that only around 1 in 20 children who start primary school overweight will get to be a healthy weight by the time they leave primary school. So only about 1 in 20. So we really need to do a lot of focus on prevention in the early years. That is a really key area for us at the moment. So that prevention and early intervention are very important. Next slide, please. So in terms of our data we get for North Yorkshire, it comes through the NYSCP, that's the National Child Measurement Programme, quite a controversial programme. That's the one where health staff go into schools and they weigh and measure children in reception and year 6. And you know, it's quite controversial. It's a mandated programme, so every local authority has to undertake that. It gives us some really great data. It's just really a screening programme in terms of having a picture of where we're at in terms of levels of overweight and healthy weight and underweight of our children, and also about identifying any families who might want some support with lifestyles and so on. So this is the data we had from our NYSCP data from last summer that we submitted last summer. We get the data sort of towards the end of the year, so we had it in around December last year. And it's sort of showing us that about a quarter, nearly a quarter of our children in North Yorkshire, as they start primary school, so 4 and 5 year olds, about a quarter are already carrying excess weight. And as I've said, a lot of them, you know, will struggle to then get to a healthy weight as they go through primary school. So that's the number we're really trying to reduce now, the numbers starting primary school carrying excess weight. So next slide, please. Thank you. So this is just to give you an idea of what's happening in North Yorkshire compared to England. If you look at the top line, top lines are showing us the levels of excess weight. So that's classed as being overweight or very overweight. The orange line is North Yorkshire, green line is England, taking us back to 2008. So you can see our orange line, we used to be quite below the national average for levels of overweight in 4 and 5 year olds. And around 2017, 18, it sort of started creeping up there, and it is now above the national average. You can see that tick up, which was the COVID year. But for this year, this age group, levels have largely returned back to where they were pre-COVID. For the older children, not quite so much. They haven't come down quite so much. But yeah, we are now above the national average for the first time since these records began, and we really want to try and get those back down below national average. Next slide, please. So yeah, key message, I guess, we need to reduce the numbers of early years children who are gaining excess weight during the early years period to prevent those from starting school. So we really want to get that orange line down. Prevention is really crucial, and we are starting quite a big focus on early years. We're getting different partners together to look at what we can do across the system to work with yourselves and professionals who are working with families and other organisations as well, to see how we can work together to help families, especially in a cost of living crisis. And families are dealing with so many different things, so many challenges. We need to make things simple for families. We need to make it easy. We need to create healthy environments, but also give them tools and so on, and make sure there's financial support as well, and so on out there to help families. So lots to do, and my email's at the end of the slide set, I think. So welcome any thoughts. If any of you want to email me or work together, or if you've got any ideas, then I'm always open to ideas and discussion. So next slide, please. So this is just, I guess, in terms of, obesity it's a complex issue. It's a very, complicated, issue to tackle, and we really need to tackle it through all different pieces of the jigsaw. And this is called a whole systems approach to obesity. So it's about saying we can't just tell people how to eat a healthy diet if they haven't got the food, or they haven't got the energy, or all the food in the local shop is really unhealthy, or healthy food's really expensive, or there's nowhere to play outside, or it's about all of those things and making sure we're tackling all of those things. So it's about making sure our environments are healthy, so there's available food, healthy food. That might be through food banks, it might be through local shops, but making sure that it's easy for families to make the healthy choice and that they're able to do that and afford that. We need to look at the school and childcare setting, what's happening during the school day, how much physical activity are children getting, what sort of food are they getting, is there water available? So we need to look at what's happening in those settings as well. We need to look at how we can increase the consumption of healthy food. How do we do that? Through marketing, messages, social media, so on. Workplaces, of course, is a big area for adults, looking at increasing active travel. How do we get families to walk to nursery or to the childminders, or scooter or whatever? How do we increase that activity in their everyday life? Providing access to weight management support. So for families that are struggling with weight and need a bit of support just to get into healthier habits or to find out information. We do have weight management services now. We've got a new service called Healthy Families, which is for 4 to 19 year olds, and then there's a service called Poppy, which is for early years, which I'll talk a little bit about as well. So we need to make sure there's support for families that are, and the children who maybe are already carrying excess weight, to help them sort of get back on track. And we need to make sure there's opportunities in the communities, so there's playgrounds and cycle tracks and green spaces and places to play and so on. We need to do the comms, the communication, and educating people and making sure the information is available. and make sure our environments are supportive of an active lifestyle as well, so it's easy to be active. Next slide, please. So just a reminder in terms of the statutory framework and the food and drink section, this is just a reminder about the requirements within there, and the statement says children learn best when they're healthy, safe and secure and their individual needs are met. So where children are provided with meals, snacks and drinks, they must be healthy, balanced and nutritious. The provider must obtain information about any special dietary requirements, preferences, food allergies that the child has got, and any special health requirements. Providers must record and act on information from parents and carers about a child's dietary needs, must make sure that fresh drinking water is available at all times. There must be an area which is adequately equipped to provide healthy meals, snacks and drinks, suitable facilities for hygienic preparation of food, and the staff preparing and handling food must be competent to do so, and must have all staff involved in preparing and handling food must receive training in food hygiene. So just a reminder about the requirements in there. Oh, next slide, please. So, you can bring all these up, Hayden, if you like. So there's got some build on here. So just some of the things we're doing, hopefully things to support yourselves, things you can get involved in, and things that you may not have known about. So you hopefully you have heard that we've got a North Yorkshire Healthy Schools and Early Years Award programme. I've got some slides on the early years programme, so I'll come to that in a minute. We as I said, we have got family weight management services and support. So Poppy is the early years, which is run by HDFT, and we've got a new service which started in March called Healthy Families for 4 to 19-year-olds. So which is great. That's a remote service. It supports families remotely. We've been doing some work around cost of living support, recognising how many families are struggling with food insecurity and cost of living. So I've been looking at how we can help families locally. So the Healthy Start scheme, which is the food and voucher scheme, which I've got some information on. We've been looking at free school meals, which can be applicable to early years as well, and how we can increase free school meals uptake. We've been looking at the provision of breakfast clubs and how we can promote and increase those in schools and early years, and then things like food banks and looking at where those sort of the food redistribution sites are. I'll come on to that as well. The early years packed lunch, I've got a slide on that. And then we have a new programme called Active Start, which is really exciting. We've just got some funding for this programme. It's an early years physical activity programme for North Yorkshire. So North Yorkshire Sport will be leading on it, working with us, and it will be training for early year settings to help you with ideas about building more physical activity into your curriculum, into your day, getting children more active, some really great links to the curriculum and the requirements and so on. So really great program. There's a brilliant video on it, and I could have shown it if I'd maybe had a bit more time, but I have put the link on one of my final slides, so I'll show you where that is and you can maybe watch it. It's a 5-minute video, really inspiring. Next slide, please. So a couple of things. I think I did do a presentation last year and at one of the leadership forums, and I mentioned that we were thinking about developing some healthy packed lunch guidance for early years, and we have now sort of got on with that. We've got a draft developed. So the document at the top is healthy eating guidelines for early. So this is a document for providers. It's to summarise the sort of key messages around healthy eating for early years providers. So we're putting that together. We're just finishing it off. Really interested in if anyone's got any thoughts on that, whether you'd find it useful. But we will be piloting that and the packed lunch guidance, which is the document at the bottom, We've adapted the primary school version for an early years audience. So we are going to be piloting both of these documents soon, just sending them out and getting some feedback, and hopefully getting some feedback from families as well as to what they think about it as well. If you'd be interested in sharing some feedback, or you'd like to see these, then please email me. We'll probably may work with the early years providers who are on the Healthy Schools, Healthy Early Years Award programme. We've got contacts for, but welcome feedback from all settings as well. So please keep an eye out for those. Next slide, please. Yeah, so the Healthy Early Years Award, hopefully you're aware about this. It launched in November 2021. So far, we've got 87 settings in North Yorkshire registered, which is brilliant. And 13 of those so far have achieved an award. So by signing up, you get access to the website. There's lots of resources and information, and there's training sessions, free training sessions. And then if you want to apply for an award, for your setting, you can do. So there's 3 themes plus staff wellbeing. So there's healthy food, active lives, personal, social and emotional development, and emotional health and wellbeing. So you can apply for an award for one of those themes at a time if you want to do. You have to provide an action plan which just shows how you're meeting certain criteria, and the criteria is things like leadership, or it might be about staff training, child voice. Are you listening to the families and the children? Are you getting their opinions? What about your curriculum? Are you building things into the curriculum? Are you promoting healthy eating with the families? So there's certain things and criteria that you have to meet, and you put in an action plan to demonstrate what you're doing around that, and then you get your awards. So there's bronze, silver, and gold level awards. So next slide, please. I think the next one, yeah. So just an example of some of the really great submissions we've had from early year settings around healthy eating and oral health as well. So these are just some displays that they had in the settings around healthy eating, oral health, and sort of toothbrushing and so on. So I had some really, really good pieces of work going on in settings. Next slide, please. So this is the next training dates. If you would like to sign up and get involved in the North Yorkshire Early Years Award, the next training is on the 20th of June. So they're online, and there's the details of how to book through NYES training, or you can sort of email for details as well. So do sign up if you'd like to get going with the programme. Next slide, please. So Healthy Start Scheme, this is something you can promote to your families. There's a web link there at the bottom. So if you're doing any social media or newsletters or anything, you could just include some information on the Healthy Start Scheme. So it's available to pregnant women who are more than 10 weeks pregnant, or who have got a child under the age of 4 who receive state benefits and meet the eligibility criteria. So it's a Healthy Start card. Money is put onto it to help them buy food and milk. Includes infant formula as well in retailers that accept Mastercard. So there's also free Healthy Start vitamins and free vitamin drops. And we've been doing quite a lot of work in public health to try and increase our uptake for the Healthy Start scheme. So to support families with these things gives them the babies and the children a really good start. So next slide, please. So just a few resources. There's a video there. I can't quite remember what time I was due to finish, but this is the Active Start video, which is the new physical activity early years programme that we've got funding for, and North Yorkshire Sport are going to be leading on that for us. But it's a really nice video. It is 5 minutes, so we'll let you watch this, and then I'll finish off.
North Yorkshire Sport joined us at one of our leadership forums, so yeah, we're absolutely thrilled that we've got this funding for this. So it's brilliant. Yeah,
it's brilliant. Yeah, thank you.
Active Start is a programme designed to increase the physical activity levels of children in early years settings. And we do this by training and supporting the staff who work with them to integrate physical activity into all areas of the early years curriculum. Physical activity is really important in early years. It's really important for their physical health and well-being, but also for their development as well. So it helps develop the physical skills that they need, so their gross motor skills, but also the fine motor skills for writing and things like that. So Active Start is not just about implementing kind of traditional PE sessions or outdoor sessions, integrating physical activity into all areas of learning and across the early years curriculum. But it also supports them to develop healthy and strong bones and muscles, and it gives them opportunities to develop their social skills, emotional skills and communication as well, and hopefully instills in them a love of movement and activity that they'll take through the rest of their lives.
We chose to take part in Active Start training with RISE because we had really low baselines on entry in September for gross motor in particular, and we noticed that because the physical skills weren't up to scratch, it had a dramatic impact on the rest of the prime and the specific areas. So I feel the benefits to the staff after doing the training is how easy it is to just pick up. I think it's also increased confidence in our newer members of staff within the early years team. So even if it's not myself or Miss Pape, the other reception teacher, leading on the gross motor time, they can still pick it up, look at the card. It gives them everything they need to know. It shows them exactly what skills it's covering and what areas of development it's using. So yeah, it's helped that confidence a lot. So it's had huge benefits on the children, from lots of small things like putting their coats on. You would be amazed how many of them really struggled to put their coats on at the beginning of the year. Doing up zips, using the dinner trays in the dinner hall accurately. We don't have any spillages, or when we do, it's very few.
We loved the training because of the resource pack. Workload is massive, so we didn't want to go away and have to find things for ourselves. So it's literally you pick out the card. It's been unbelievable. Last week we had our assessment week, and our data, so 37% were on track in baseline. It's now up to 71% on track of just promoting gross motor. So a massive improvement. We're hoping now to see a difference in literacy, so that those fine motor skills we focused on as well, to see it impacting across. It's easy to pick up. There's not hours and hours of CPD to go through. You pick out cards, so it's easy to resource. I just think if you can see that gross and fine are an area that needs developing, just run with it. It's so easy.
It's helped the children a lot, basically. It helps them develop in all sorts of ways, physically, socially, emotionally. Like, it just helps them to progress when they're going through nursery into reception and then from reception to year one. So my favourite aspects are just the variety of the games. Like, all of the different games, there's books to do where you can like help them to interact, doing different things, not just all physical. Like, you can read a book and get them to interact in that way. You can get them to do physical things. You can get them to do things that involve literacy and maths. You can do all sorts with all the games. So the staff that done the training with me, like, we all work in different schools, nurseries, and we do community classes as well, and we'll all do it differently, and obviously we'll all take our different steps with all the games that are provided, so doing it all differently helps all of our children that we work with.
My favourite aspect is probably the variety that there is there. I sometimes found before I did the training that I would have the same bank of activities to develop the physical skills, both gross motor and fine motor. Probably gross motor more so. I just had the same kind of ones that I went back on rotation. So it's allowed me to branch out a little bit and then I feel like the kids don't feel as bored with it either, because I'm not. You know, we've got lots of different options to choose from. Another huge reason that you should do the training and take it on in your setting is because it's accessible for everybody in your class. It doesn't matter whether you've got a high proportion of SEND pupils, everybody can access it. And we've got quite a high percentage of EAL children as well, with English as an additional language. And what we found is they're able to really pick it up because it's lots of actions, there's stories, there's pictures that link into it. It's just fab for everyone in the class.
I hope that was interesting. As I said, we've got funding to roll this out in North Yorkshire. We will be sort of targeting, it is sort of going to be initially targeted at areas of greatest need, but hopefully it'll be open to all areas and settings eventually. So yeah, so look out for that. Really great program, really good video. So lots of links there, the cost of living support, lots of different resources and information. I won't go through them all, but do have a look at those. And if we just flick through the last slides, and then I'll round up, Hayden, because I know we've gone over a little bit. Yeah, do physical activity guidelines, 180 minutes a day, so 3 hours a day for early years children to be active in all sorts of different ways. There's a poster there whether that you can share with or display in your setting or share with families. Go to the next slide. I think it's just some healthy snacks guidance. Oh yeah, there's various resources here that you can share with families or email out and so on. If we just go to the next slide, I think there's 2 of those. Yeah, so sort of healthy weight guidance and then healthy snacking. Again, things you can share with your families or on your websites or whatever. I think that might be the last one. Yeah, so thanks everyone. My name's Helen Ingle. Yeah, details are there, so do email me if you've got any thoughts or comments or anything. Really good to hear from people. So I don't know if there's any questions, is there, in the chat, Helen, or but
no,
you're welcome to email me.
Ella, about the pants, and I think the pants book is available on the NSPCC website. But if you just go on and have a look, Ella, I'm sure there's resources up there. But no, that's brilliant. Thank you, Helen. And
yeah,
I mean, everybody that subscribes to Nursery World online, you probably saw last week there was a new sort of statistic out that's saying about children's activity levels have gone back to pre-COVID. However, I think it was about 60% of children are still not meeting that minimum target that the government sets. So if you didn't see that, I mean, that's worth a quick read. And really, I mean, that's why we were so sort of passionate, weren't we, Helen, about getting the Active Start sort of program. Yeah, and you worked really hard to get that in. So thank you ever so much. And
okay, you're welcome. Yeah, thanks everyone.
Lovely, thank you.
Bye.
And back to Hayden. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Right, okay, so what I'm just going to do now is just run quickly through the update from the NYSCP in terms of what's been going on here. So one thing that you really need to be aware of is obviously from the 1st of April we became, or rather the local authority became a one council with the district councils. So rather than being North Yorkshire County Council, it is now North Yorkshire Council. As a result of that, there's been a lot of changes that have taken place, and the main customer service number for the new North Yorkshire Council has changed. So the new number that you would phone if you have any concerns or you want to speak to somebody about early help or whatever is 0300 131 2131. Doesn't roll off the tongue quite as good as the old one, but once you realise that the 1312131 is actually the same, the number's reversible, it makes it a lot easier. So this will replace the old number of 01609 780 780. And what that means is you need to be updating all of your contact sheets, any documents that you've got reference to the old number in, and put the new number in there now, because that number will eventually be turned off. So that, what I should say is this also includes the out of office team, because obviously I say the out of office, the emergency duty team, because the emergency duty team is always available from the same number as the customer resolution centre is as well. So things like the contact number for professionals, that line will remain exactly the same as it was. We're already talking about the 780 780 number. Don't worry, it's not going to disappear immediately, but it's going to disappear in the future. So it's better if you move things over to meet that as soon as possible. In terms of procedures, guidance and 1 minute guide, there's been a few updates. So we've had the update of the NYSCP standards and criteria. So what this document does, it outlines everything that you can expect at the various different stages for early help, for if there's a child protection conference, what a child protection plan should have, the timescales, who should have access to it, who should be attending meetings, all of that sort of thing. It's also got information in about private fostering, which, granted, I understand from your year group is probably the least likely to have private fostering, but it is still something that we need to be cognizant of. So if there is a child or a young person who is being looked after by somebody who is not the parents or a direct relative for 28 days or more, that is a private fostering agreement, and it must be notified to the local authority. So the details about that are in that guidance. There's also something on our website under professionals, and then private fostering on there as well. It should be the responsibility of the parents to notify, but they don't always do that, and they don't always realise that they have to do that as well. So it's just to be aware that you're under a duty to sort of like let the local authority know if you become aware that an arrangement is in place. Missing from home and care protocol has been updated, as has the guidance for safeguarding unborn babies, pre-birth guidance. There's also some other guidance in relation to babies that is also getting updated as well. That's currently going through the changes. There is some new National Safer Sleep Day 1 professionals guide that's also available. We've put the link on the website, and because something came up through one of the child providers, we've been looking at child abuse linked to faith, belief or witchcraft, and there is some guidance that has now been put on our website in relation to that. There already was a little bit of guidance on there, but it was only a couple of paragraphs. This is a little bit more verbose, so you can access that information from there as well. And there's also the multi-agency child exploitation on MACE arrangements, which is probably least likely to really impact on early years. In terms of social media, I'd already mentioned before about the fact that we've finally managed to be able to name our YouTube channel after having lots of random letters at the end of it to get people to come to see us. So if you want to see any of the videos, then look at youtube.com/@NYSCP. And when Helen was talking about the previous masterclass for early years that we did 6 months ago, I have actually put in the chat the link to that masterclass now as well, so you can easily access that as well. Obviously, one of the things is in terms of social media, the branding that social media has, it always seems to be like a circular logo. So we've changed our logo from the normal rectangular sort of like flat one to this only for social media. So if you see this logo that's on the screen, that is basically our branding for online, but otherwise it's just the normal logo that you see on everything else will appear on there. So don't forget, just please visit our YouTube channel and subscribe to that. That would be really good. The other thing as well is we also produce a podcast, which that one we have actually done Safer Sleep as well, so you can actually download that and listen to that wherever, and that's on Spotify, but it's also available through other providers. The only provider we haven't cracked yet, I think, is iTunes, so don't bother looking for us from there. But if you load up Spotify or anywhere like that, then you should be able to listen to our podcast as well. And there's lots of other things on there as well, including things like hidden harm and managing allegations against staff and PIPOP procedures and that sort of stuff. So there's plenty on there for you to listen to. You can also listen to those on our website as well under the professionals and learning for professionals section on our website. One of the things that we do have and we provide through our website is an audit tool for group providers and childminders. We've done this, with the early years service for well, a number of years really. And one thing that we are going to be looking to be doing in the future is we do undertake an audit of schools, and this is under the guise of Section 11 and various other bits of the requirements that are based on the partnership. And as a partnership, what we have to do is make sure that arrangements are in place, that they're adequate, and that be assured that children are kept safe. And that's why we do this audit with schools. There has been a decision made by the partnership that actually we have been missing out a big trick, and one of those is looking at early years, because obviously a third of children's life almost is spent in early years. So what we are going to be doing is using the audit tool that we provide to you already, and we'll be requesting that you actually submit your completed audit tools to us, so that we can have an assessment in terms of what are the current trends, themes and issues that early years providers are facing in terms of ensuring that all safeguarding arrangements that are required under the early years and everything else are in place. So what we are planning on doing in the coming months is we will be revising the audit tool that we've got. Now, obviously, we haven't got a crystal ball, so we can't tell you if there's going to be massive changes in this area, but as it stands at the moment, we suspect that there won't be massive changes from the tool as it is now. However, the government could surprise us and say, here's a brand new Keeping Children Safe in Education or a brand new early years framework, but we believe that that's a little way off. So hopefully the tool that we've already got there should be substantially similar, and if you wanted to start on that work now, then it should be quite easy for you to transpose that to a new tool, which we will be supplying to everybody as well. We will keep further updates, from us through the early years monthly key messages. So we'll be saying, okay, we are going live with our audit now, and this is the response date for people to return the audit tool to us. It is a mandatory requirement because as a partnership, part of our role is to gain that assurance that children are kept safe in the area, and that partners are working together in that sort of regard. And this is one of the ways that amongst many that we do that. So if you can please ensure that you do send that back to us within the time scales. We will be doing things to help you out. So saying, there'll be like a tracker, so it'll keep track of everything that you're doing, be able to tick things off, and then you'll know when it's ready to progress to being returned to us. But obviously all of this is about ensuring that we can get that assurance that early years providers have good safeguarding arrangements in place as a partnership, but also to identify areas where as a partnership we might be able to help you in the future. And that's it from me there, Helen. So I'll hand back up to yourself.
Thank you ever so much, Hayden. Are you doing the Chris Whitty bit for me? Yeah.
Yes, if just
lovely. Thank you. Yeah. So you can just move it on. Okay, thank you ever so much. We're doing well. We're Hayden's pulled it back, so I shall be brief, and then I can give Susan as much possible time as possible. So yeah, obviously everybody keeping children safe is all our responsibilities. So the next slide, please. So just want to talk just a little bit about oral health, and again, this comes under the statutory framework. I won't go through all of this, but it's just a reminder that obviously tooth decay, like Catherine was saying about injuries, tooth decay is largely preventable, but it is a really, really serious problem in young children, and nearly a quarter of 5-year-olds in England have tooth decay, with at least 3 or 4 children affected on average. And tooth extraction is the most common procedure for children under 6 years old in hospital. So that's the reason why the majority of children are admitted actually into hospital. And again, children from more deprived backgrounds are more likely to have tooth decay. And obviously there's that whole association of toothache, needing treatment. Sometimes the only experience children have of going to a dentist is to actually have extractions, which is not a good first experience. And then obviously there's wider issues connected with that, which is like sleeping, eating, socializing, talking, and learning. And then there's the impact on parents as well, with children being absent from early year settings due to toothache. So as you know, it is in the statutory framework now, and we have been promoting supervised toothbrushing sessions. There's just 2 left of these available, which if you've not had chance to get on them yet, the next one is the 16th of May at 2 o'clock. And then the last one is the 14th of June at 10 o'clock. And I know I've done the training, and it's really good. So yeah, so next slide, please. As Catherine said, just a bit of a hard hitting. This was just again about a little boy who died in a nursery in Dudley, and this was only in December of this year. 2 of the staff were arrested on suspicion of manslaughter, and it was all to do with safe sleeping. When you actually, obviously you can go online and you can read the Ofsted report yourself, but when you look at the welfare notices, it was about children being checked frequently or not being checked frequently, reviewing the sleeping arrangements and ensuring that children were placed to sleep safely in line with government safety guidance. And then ensuring all practitioners have appropriate qualifications, training and skills, and understanding their roles and responsibilities with regards to sleeping children. So sadly, that is the very, very worst case scenario that, none of us ever want to experience that. But sadly, that did happen. So again, the SUDI presentation that Karen did in October, it is still available, and I know I've got the link on the end of here as well. So next slide, please, Hayden.
Sorry, can I just come in there as well?
Yeah.
Any child death within North Yorkshire will be reviewed by the Child Death Overview Panel, and you probably won't have to do it, but there will need to be a notification that would be made to the CDOT to initiate that process. If the child dies unexpectedly, then there would also be what is known as a JAR, which is a joint agency response to the child death, and that meeting is convened within a couple of days. And as if the child has died in your establishment, then you would be invited to join in that meeting. So there is, we will be putting on the website next week the training that we just delivered this morning in terms of the CDOT panel, so it would be worth people accessing that just so that they're aware of if that ever does happen, and we hope to God it doesn't, but they know what to do.
Okay, thank you. So yeah, next slide, please. So just moving on, again, linked in with what Catherine was talking about, I just want to focus a little bit more on choking and food safety, because again, this is a huge, this is a massive element within the section 3. We know that tragically 1 child a month dies in the UK from choking, but hundreds more need actual hospital treatment. We know that young children's immune systems are not as developed as adults, so they actually are more vulnerable to infections, which do lead to food poisoning. So it is important that extra care with hygiene and preparation of food safety. And again, making sure that the correct safety arrangements are in place. And we know about children being adequately supervised whilst eating. And we know that there's that balance between encouraging children to become independent and letting them cut up their own fruit and things, whilst actually having that supervision and knowing your children. And again, the importance of knowing the children's dietary requirements before they join your setting, making sure that you do know what their allergies are, and making sure that the people who are, say, preparing the food or with that child when that child's having that food, actually they are aware as well, because we have had that in a setting as well. So again, you know, it is about, you know, that choking. Next slide, please. Again, this is not a pleasant slide, and this is, you've probably all heard of Oliver Steeper, and his parents are very, very active now in campaigning for child safety. But tragically, again, Oliver died he choked on food in a nursery that he was at in 2021, it was a nursery down in Kent, where they were actually giving him food that was of a it wasn't suitable for him. He was only 9 months old. He wasn't able to actually chew the food that he was given. And so actually, tragically, he actually died as a result of that. So again, this is absolute worst case scenario. But again, you know, it's preventable through correct supervision and procedures. Next slide, please, Hayden. Just a reminder that this information is available as a footnote within the statutory framework. That 3.49 footnote 56, that information is up there, and at the bottom of the posters, that left-hand side poster there, it does actually have links about how to stop a child from choking and how to resuscitate a child as well. So it's, if you've not got those, you know, up in your settings, you know, it's worth having them up there. Next slide, please. We were going to do a quiz, but we've just slightly run out of time. So this will, obviously you'll get the slides. It'll be in the link and everything. And again, you may want to do this in your setting, but it's quite interesting. The next slide, please, Hayden. So this would have been like a, you know, using these words to finish sentences off, and if we just see those go through, and there's probably some that straight away you'll think, yeah, know exactly what that's going to be. But yeah, if you could just go to the next slide, Hayden. This would have been sort of like, you know, shout out what your answers are. One of the things, again, it's just about, you know, with your grapes, strawberries, cherry tomatoes, cutting them lengthways and into quarters. And again, sort of like if you're serving sausages at lunchtime, make sure they're cut into thin strips. So that will be up there. So you can play around with that yourselves. Sort of after this. Next slide, please, Hayden. Just a reminder, I mean, this is quite a powerful sentence. Sadly, it's from 1999 and it still sort of like, you know, resonates now, that without fail, challenge poor practice or performance, because actually, you know, it's harder to sound the alarm bells when things go wrong if things have not been challenged sort of along the way. Next slide, please. So as Hayden said, one of our settings we did, you know, was sort of like in an Ofsted report, it came out about child abuse linked to faith and belief and witchcraft, which is why we've done a lot more work to actually sort of like raise that profile. I know I've been sending things out in key messages, but again, please just make sure there is that top YouTube clip again. That's a fantastic clip about a little boy called Madouche, and he was branded a witch. He came over to this country, and it's a really, really sad story, but it has a very good positive ending. But he was basically in a branded sort of like evil, or a witch within his own sort of extended family. And so again, those links are all there for you on the Safeguarding Partnership. The other thing just to draw attention to is the oral infant mutilation, which again, if you've not heard of that, that's where when children's teeth are coming through, those little teeth buds, they quite often have a temperature, but in some cultures, the temperature, they think that temperature is caused by the teeth being teeth worms, and not actually the teeth buds that we would recognise. And so actually they remove the teeth buds, sort of using bicycle sort of spanners and things like that. And obviously, quite often they're not disinfected or hygienic. So then the children end up, really badly, sort of like with bad infections. So again, there's lots of information out there about oral. So it's just being mindful of these things, because Ofsted are sort of picking up on these things. And what actually Ofsted, when I spoke with our Ofsted regulatory inspector about this, what Ofsted actually says is that even though there isn't anything specifically in inspecting safeguarding about witchcraft, what they actually say is that within the inspecting safeguarding document, it says, however, following a list of known risks, it does add other issues not listed here, but that pose a risk to children, learners and vulnerable adults. So basically, that's like a cover-all, isn't it, really, from their point of view. Next slide, please, Hayden. We can skip over this because Hayden went into this in a lot more detail, but again, there's links upon my slides that will sort of support your practice as well, and just underline those sort of messages. And next slide, Hayden, go on to parental conflict, please. I just want to raise parental conflict because this was something that was raised at a partnership day, and it's just to highlight that parental conflict is different to domestic abuse. The practice supervisor for stronger relationships has been doing lots and lots of work with the early help team about children living in households where there's parental stress and parental conflicts. And high levels of parental conflict obviously have an impact on child development. Parental conflict doesn't always lead to domestic abuse. It can be present even without domestic abuse. So again, if you know, next slide, please. If you know that you're working with families, and these are some of the families that sort of Sarah through the research identified. New parents, 66% of new parents said that when they'd had a baby, it had a negative effect on their relationship. Families on low income, again, if you've got lots of 2-year-old children, funded 2-year-old children, in your setting. Military families, obviously they have unique stresses in their lives. And then children with disabilities and special educational needs, again, parents reported that stress and that strain caused to parental breakdown within those relationships. So again, if you're working with any families that you've got concerns about, again, it's your safeguarding professional curiosity and interest. Early help. Please speak with your early help team, and like I say, they've all been trained in parental conflict, so they'll be able to support you and provide sort of further guidance on that. And then just my last slide was just a quick reminder, just the link is there for the masterclass from October with the SUDI message. This presentation will be shared, and if you sign, as Hayden said at the beginning, when you do the whatever it's called, when we do it afterwards, the survey afterwards, you know, you will get a certificate, but then this is being recorded and it will be shared.
Yeah, and that link is also in the chat right now as well.
Yeah, fabulous. Thank you ever so much. So that is me finished, and I can now hand over. So thank you so much, everybody, and I'll now hand over to Susan.
Evening, everybody. I don't know how I ended up with the last slot at 8:45, and I'm sure you're all ready to.
It was you're the golden apple, Susan.
No, I don't
to
think
keep
I
everybody
am.
Here.
You'll be pleased to hear I've got no slides for you, but I just wanted to talk through, and Helen and I talk through. I've spoken on a couple of occasions to you as in terms of what the LADO does, managing allegations against staff, and I just thought it would be helpful just to run through some of the cases we've had that came to memory, in a sense, just to raise the awareness of the things that have been reported to us that have caused some difficulties for some nurseries. Sometimes it's nothing that the nursery's done wrong or the staff have done wrong, but they're just complicated issues that you sometimes find yourself faced with. And how, in a sense, the best thing to do when you've got any concerns, and we've said this before, make contact with a LADO. They'll give you some advice in terms of whether it meets our threshold, whether you need to inform Ofsted. We'll put things in writing to you in terms of it meeting the threshold. We'll give you some advice in terms of actions you need to take. And one of the things, and we've had one today, when you've contacted Ofsted, Ofsted will then come back to the LADO and check the information that you've given to them is the same as we've given to you, and it will be, but it just makes that circle close quite easily and comfortably, that Ofsted aren't coming to us and saying, was this reported to you because the parents told us this or something else. So some of the things that we've had, and I apologise if anybody on the call today on the evening, they come from your nurseries, so I'm not going to identify any nurseries. We had a case where a member of staff was holding a baby on their knee, leant forward to pick something off the floor, and the baby fell off the knee. Sustained some injuries, and the parents unhappy with that. And again, what we're talking about is just you reflecting within your nursery settings, within your childminders, if you've got assistants, what is the practice of the staff on a day-to-day basis? Are you keeping a good eye on things, or are things beginning to slip very slightly? So that is an example of that. Again, we pick up issues sometimes where a parent has come to collect a child from nursery, but is clearly under the influence of alcohol or drugs, and that the staff don't prevent that parent taking the child. I know those things are again difficult to manage and difficult to deal with, but if you feel the child will be at risk of harm if that parent takes that child because of the state they're in when they arrive with you, then it absolutely is your duty and responsibility to manage those things. It's not unusual that children get out through gaps in fences, get through gates, etc. That children, when they're taken out on activities, sometimes children get away from the group. And it's just being really mindful of that. And again, it's just reminding staff who sometimes become a little bit complacent because we always do it this way on a Thursday and we always take these children, that children can be unpredictable. You know that better than I do. And it's just making sure that you continually review your practices, continually review your risk assessments. We had an unusual case in a nursery whereby a member of staff had false nails, which is absolutely fine. But on this particular occasion, one of the nails got knocked off. And so whilst the children were present, she tried to glue the nail back on again. And one of the children got hold of the nail glue and unfortunately got into their eye and caused quite some significant difficulties for that child and child needing hospital treatment. And again, it's just reminding your staff really clearly on a regular basis as to what your expectations are of them. We had a situation, it links back to what Helen's just talked about in terms of faith abuse, and it isn't faith abuse, but it's some practices in other cultures that aren't necessarily acceptable in our culture. And we had an incident where a child had been subject to cupping, which was something within the cultural background of one of the parents of the child, but it was a very, very young child. And so the child had ended up with quite significant red ringed marks on their body, in a way that for an adult who it is their choice to go through that particular practice is fine, but to do that for a small child actually felt to be something that was inappropriate, and the nursery were aware of that and hadn't, in our view, properly reported that. It's not unusual that children go home with marks and bruises and injuries, and when parents try and check out what's happened, the nursery hasn't got a record of those things. So we end up with an unexplained injury where sometimes the parent's saying it must have happened at nursery and the nursery's saying, well, it didn't. And so it's just reiterating that record keeping is so important. So children coming in with any mark on them that the nursery is recording that, checking those things with parents, absolutely. But having a good record keeping, really good accurate record keeping of anything where a child might have bumped or bruised themselves, so that you've got some clear records if it is challenged at a later date. Because it's very difficult when you've no record of a child coming in with a bruise, no records of anything that might have happened on the day, and yet when the child gets home there is a mark on them, and those become quite difficult and often quite fractious between parents and settings, etc. Again, that's sometimes links into what your changing arrangements are in terms of who's changing, where are they changing, are you recording the changing? Because sometimes we have children who talk then later about being touched. And because they often don't have sufficient language, it begins to feel sometimes as if the child is saying they've been assaulted when that might not be the case. And any case that anybody's ever been involved in where a child is saying they've been touched in a place that could be of a sexual nature becomes incredibly difficult, particularly with young children. So again, it's just making sure that you're changing arrangements, where they are, who's doing them, how you record them, so that you've got some evidence to say, well, that person didn't change that child on that day when the children have changed these arrangements, so that you've got some evidence to back up if things are being said that you know can't be accurate, but you need the documentation in relation to that. One of the things that Helen and I saw when we were in the nursery together a little while ago was staff moving things around the nursery. And on this particular nursery setting, the members of staff were lifting, I think it was tables and chairs over children who were sitting on the floor, or pieces of equipment over children when they were sitting on the floor, rather than moving the children to the side or doing it in a different way. And again, I think it's just that complacency that sometimes sets in, or when people are busy, that they don't think, actually, if I lift this chair over this child and the child stands up, the child's going to get bonked on the head. So it's really just you as your nursery managers, settings, etc., just having that real vigilance in terms of checking practice on a regular basis, that things don't creep in that you absolutely know, and staff know that they shouldn't be doing, but just begin to creep in over time. Again, the allergy one that Helen mentioned, again, is an interesting one, because we've had a case where a child attended a nursery setting, but the nursery came into a school to join for them for lunchtime. And the child was known to have allergies. The staff member that brought the child in knew that. The kitchen knew that, but there was a degree of distraction on the day. So the child was handed over a plate with scrambled egg on it. And both the school staff and the nursery staff knew the child had an egg allergy, but didn't check properly. There was an assumption that the egg must have been, because it was given to the child, a substitute egg, and it wasn't. So it's just that, again, I've said it many times this evening, it's that vigilance, it's that continual vigilance, that continual reviewing. And then the other things that we do manage are where there are allegations that relate to somebody's own child. So bearing in mind, if a child is open to child protection procedures, then we need to look at a transferable risk assessment in terms of any risk that might transfer from a home setting into a work setting, without an assumption that that's the case, but we do need to know those things. And when children become subject to child protection procedures, children's social care will advise us anyway. So it's important your staff know that, and so staff can inform you and you can inform us, and we can get those things tied up as well as we can in the first instance. Again, that also applies to people's partners, people with whom they're closely associated. So where somebody's partner or close family member is under investigation put by the police for potentially offences against children, be that contact offences or possibly online images, then there are implications for your members of staff. And again, we will be advised of that. And again, we need to look into whether there's any concerns about the member of staff. Again, more often than not, there isn't, but it's really important your staff know that those things will be brought to our attention, and therefore it's much better that they notify you as soon as they're aware of that, and then we're coming into it fresh. We've had a couple of incidents recently where we've had allegations against staff working in our settings that related to staff when they were younger and not working in your setting. And they're quite difficult to manage because there will be a police inquiry of non-recent abuse in particular cases, and we'll need to determine with you whether it's appropriate for your member of staff to remain in work. So again, it's just picking up those kind of issues as early and as quickly as we can. Those are the main things I just wanted to talk about, and it's not set out to, to frighten people or to alarm you. What it's set out to do is just to continue to raise the awareness with you of the expectations of your staff, what your expectations are in terms of them informing you of things, and just that continual vigilance that you have in terms of how staff are working, how they're behaving, how they're interacting with the children, and really good record keeping. And if you're ever in doubt as to whether something meets the threshold for LADO, you'll have our contact details on the partnership website. Please just give us a ring. We're very happy to do that. There are circumstances where situations appear quite difficult, where people have gone to Ofsted, and where we can have conversations with Ofsted if there's another part of a story that Ofsted perhaps haven't been informed by whoever has gone to them as a complainant. So hopefully we're a helpful set of individuals that can support you with some of the most difficult things you will do. But please always, very happy to make contact with us, very happy to talk things through, and where possible support you to take cases and incidents forward. That's all I wanted to cover this evening. And I know you've had a long evening with lots of information, and we're finishing on not the nicest of notes, but unfortunately, because we work with children, it's really important. Has anybody got any questions, or is that okay for the moment?
There's no questions in the chat.
No, I couldn't see any.
No, but Wendy did ask about the NYSCP website having the old 780 780 number on. If you look just below, it does say in a blue box that the new number from the 1st of April. But we will be updating the website to remove the 780 number entirely.
Yeah, Helen's just put up the Duty LADO number. We have a system where that number comes through to one of our admin team in the safeguarding unit, and they will know who's on duty. They'll be able to get somebody to call you back. And it should be within a fairly short period of time. So if you've got anything that you need to talk to us about them, just give us a shout on that number, and we're very, very happy to help you in whatever way we can.
Lovely, thank you, Susan, ever so much.
No, it's my pleasure.
Oh, sorry, Hayden.
Yeah, just to make everybody aware, obviously, these are all of the upcoming masterclass. Obviously, we're 4th of May, we're here now, but we've got a business unit masterclass in June. In July, we're looking at making a good referral. In September, social, emotional, mental health, and in October, we've got reducing parental conflict. And then there's MACE 1 in November. So there's lots of things planned for the next 6 months. Obviously, you can access those at any time, but they will be on the first Wednesday of every month at 12 o'clock. So that's we've changed it from a Friday because we always kept hitting all of the school holidays, which obviously wasn't ideal for schools, but also just to make sure that people can get to see them. And if we'd have done Monday, then it would have been hitting bank holidays.
So aren't they always available? Sorry, Susan, aren't they always available afterwards as well on the website, aren't they?
Yeah, we've had 3 in the last year that haven't been available, and that has either been because somebody has presented for us and it's been copyrighted material, we haven't been able to do that, or it's been because it was a counter-terrorism local profile, and putting online what that is to potential terrorists is not a wise move. So that we keep those things, very confidential. In terms of other key links, there's those there for you. That'll be on all of the slides and everything as well. But I've already gone through all of those.
Yeah, the last thing for me, sorry, very, very last thing is if anybody wants to attend the the full allegations training, we've actually got a session on the 16th of May from 2 till 4 online, and it's bookable through the NYES website, where I think you're familiar with booking other training. So it's the 16th of May, 2 till 4, and it's allegations and safe working practice. So you'd be very welcome. Obviously, there's no charge for that course either, and it's available running it online. So if you do want to do that, you'd be very welcome to join us on that day as well.
Lovely, thank you, Susan. So I just want to say thank you ever so much for everybody joining us tonight. I know you'll have had a massively long day, and I'm sure you're ready for putting your pajamas on now. So I just want to say thank you so much, and again, thank you for all your work that you do with the children in North Yorkshire, and for keeping them safe, you know, keep fighting the good fight. So thank you ever so much, and good night.
Thank you. Good night.